what's up? Welcome to It's a Vibe podcast. I am your host, Batty B. Today we have Ty, we have Trent, y'all know Art, and of course Sandra over there. Okay. Now today we are going to dive into parenting. Okay, and the effects that it has or may not have on you or your children. Okay. The objective is to gain insight and just discuss how some of the choices parents make may or may not affect their children. Okay. So we're going to start with the choice that you make initially when you find out you're pregnant. And that is whether or not to keep it or not. So when is adoption or abortion an option? And we y'all know we got to start with Art.
Absolutely.
Always, right? Make me feel really uncomfortable. So, when is abortion or adoption an option? Abortion or adoption? Well, I'll start off with abortion. So, I feel like as a man in a developed country, I have the privilege of being pro-choice. I mean, being pro-life. I have the privilege of being pro-life. However, like at the same time, that's not really my decision. Like because I can't get pregnant, so
Okay.
like I have the privilege of being pro-life. I'm all about being pro-life. Um, at the same time, I acknowledge like that there are situations and circumstances why a woman may need to or may want to terminate a pregnancy, and I acknowledge and respect that.
So are you saying that in your eyes it's the woman's choice? So what if she is that what you're ultimately
Yes,
saying?
yes, but me personally, like I'm pro life. Like I'm like, hey, you have the right to choose whatever you want, but like, you know, choose life.
You
You know,
yeah, you
like
would
that's
suggest life, but
I
at
would
the end
suggest
of
it
the day,
right at the same
because it's
time.
not your body and you are
Right,
not the one
right,
giving birth, you give the option to the woman.
yeah.
That's
And
good. That's cool.
as
What y'all
cut
think?
as that's probably as like as if I have to
As
give a
basic.
clear, distinct answer, that's it. Because we all know that there's a lot of gray area
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
We like, a lot of times we want to try to make this topic black and white, but it's a lot of gray area there.
We can kind of dive into some of the times or circumstances that you all think would be a situation where adoption or abortion. I mean, we're talking about two different things too. So adoption is of course we all know actually having the baby and then giving it away or however way you want to do it, and then abortion is actually terminating the pregnancy altogether. So I guess even with those two options, that's two really different things. So what do y'all think? Anybody else got any insight on that? Or like what circumstances do you think would be like, okay, I can understand an abortion or an adoption in that situation?
I mean, I think there's a million and one factors that could bleed into that. You have to be a strong person to go through an entire term with a baby growing inside you and bonding with that baby, and then at the end of it be willing to give it up. And so many people in so many instances get to that point and they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you knew from the beginning that you weren't going to be a good parent, you weren't prepared for this situation, then no matter what the circumstances, if you want to have an abortion, feel free to do it. Your body, your choice.
Right.
So I'm always going to be pro-choice. Like, I can have an opinion about your situation, but I'm not in your situation.
Right.
So it's always, always to me pro-choice. Your body, your choice. But you have to be a strong-minded person, you know what I mean, to be willing to go through that entire term and have that baby and give it up to someone else.
That's true.
So, it just really depends on how you're built.
Mhm.
It depends on how you're built. That's just my opinion on the situation.
Okay. I guess the way that I look at it is I always got to be from a spiritual aspect. And I just feel like God doesn't put anything on you that you couldn't bear. I mean, I know it's tough. And sometimes, even with rape, like, when you're raped and you get pregnant, it's like, dang, I battle with that myself. Like, not with being raped, but just thinking about that situation and like, okay, Lord, now I'm saying that, you're not gonna put anything on anybody that they couldn't bear. But wow, that's got to be hard for somebody who's been raped and they actually get pregnant by the person. You know, what do you do? So I'm with you on pro-choice. I can only talk for myself. If I was to get pregnant, I would have to just believe that, okay, Lord, this must be, this must
What's
be
meant for
you.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anybody else on that one? No. What long-term effects do you guys think that it may have on the child or the parent? So, you let's say 16 years old and you realize or someone tells you that you were adopted. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's got to be tough.
It's I think for some kids that are adopted, at some point in their life they go through kind of an identity crisis kind of thing. They don't know where they come from. They have all kind of questions about, did my parents really love me? Why did they give me up? And they have a tough time with it. And others take a different route. Just kind of depends on their background and how good their parents that actually took them in did with them. So it's a case to case basis. So, but it's always going to be a tough situation when a person decides to give up a child. I'm one of those people. I'm pro-life and also pro-choice because, like she said, there are a million different factors, that factor into situations like that. And so, like I said, it's never going to be my body. I'm not a woman. So even though I'm always pro-life, I would always say at the end of the day to keep the child. At the same time, I respect your decision, to not want to have the child due to unbecoming circumstances of how that child got here. So, even though, I wouldn't agree with your decision, I would respect that because at the end of the day, that's how you feel. And going forward, only you would have to deal with that decision, And a lot of women that have chosen to abort babies, some I know personally, it take a huge toll on them later on in life.
I've seen
I mean,
it too.
Not only from a physical, but from an emotional,
Mental,
psychological. It's traumatic. And even if they decide to have kids again going forward in their life, they think about that child, that they didn't follow through with, and so it's a very, very tough thing, and it's not anything to be taken lightly. When a person decides to abort a child, because sometimes they feel like they don't have any other options due to finances or whatever it may be. It's a lot of different variables to the situation, but it's always a tough thing. So that's the route that I take when I look at that topic.
That's good. Okay, so let's just kind of fast forward. We've decided to keep the child, okay, and we're having a baby. How do you decide whether or not to go to work as a mother or the father, whoever, someone in the house stays home with the child or both goes to work? How do you make that decision? I know, of course, finances probably plays a big role, but are there any other aspects that may cause you to make whatever choice, whichever way you want to go?
I mean, like you said, I think finances will make the ultimate decision because
Absolutely.
you can feel how you want to feel, but if you can't provide for that child the way you want to provide for that child and keep your life intact and make sure you guys aren't struggling in any kind of way, then you're going to have to go to work.
Right.
Like, that's just the end all be all. Personally, I would like to have one of us stay home to take care of my baby because I don't trust people in the outside world. But if I am not able to do that when it comes to my finances, then we both got to go to work and figure it out, family or whatever have you, when the time comes. But I think the world is a scary place, and you look out there and you see like these YouTube videos or whatever, these kids beating up other kids, grown people touching people's kids. Like, there's so much going on, so much abuse, and so much they're, forced into when one parent has to go to work and not always. And I know you can't always be there, but I think that in the beginning, it's important for the parent to be able to have that control over their kid's life and be able to be in the pot, making sure things go accordingly and watching over them because they can't tell you themselves at that age,
Right.
So, but I think those are deciding factors if you are able, based on your finances, to make that kind of decision in your life.
I remember my sister told me, I don't care if I got to live in a 1-bedroom shack, to stay at home with the kids in order to, for that one person to go out and then that one person to stay at home. It's just that important to her. So that's important to me, too. Of course, I work. Well, we both work. So I had that. I was able to do that with my son, but not with my daughter. And there's a difference. There's a big difference in there's pros and cons. Denver is more sociable because she went to daycare at an early age. She kind of just out there. Dorian is more reserved because he was with me. But Dorian is um I don't know. I don't know. Emotionally, I think they're about the same. I'm trying to see what are the effects in my household. But Denver's she started early, so she knows a lot more at an early age. We would do the basic ABC 1, 2, 3, my son and I, but Denver is really really smart because she went to school. But anyway, so did anybody else have anything about the staying at home or going to
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, so on a personal thing, my wife and I have 4 sons, and when my third son was born, so my first two they went to daycare with different people that we knew, and with my third son, we were spending so much money paying childcare that my wife would go to work pretty much just to pay for childcare, and so we sat down and talked about it, and we made a decision that she would stay home, because if we're going to be paying this money for people to be taking care of our kids and, we're going to have the same amount of money at the end of the day, she may as well just do it herself. It was nothing that I forced her to do, but, we came up to an agreement that she would do that. And not only that, that was one factor, finances were, but secondly, me personally, I wanted my boys to be able to always have something stable, because nowadays there are a lot of things going on for kids. When they go to school and go to other places, there are a lot of things that you can't control, as far as the things that your kids deal with. And so I wanted somebody to be there to be able to manage, them
That's
as their life
good.
went on, as they were younger to build that foundation.
That's
And so we
good.
decided that, she would do that. And I also gave her a free range to be able to explore any opportunity that she ever wanted to in her life. And I said, I will go to work. I'll pay these bills. I said, if you hold down the fort, it's not like I'm going to work and come home and just sit on the couch, When I get ready to get home, then, we'll tag team. I said, but for now, hold down the household. I'll go to work, take care of the bills, and that's how we've been doing it. So to this day, she works from home, but everything at the house is taken care of. And when I get home, I'm active and present. Because just being in the home, it doesn't mean that you're active and present there. You have to
Exactly.
actually be engaging.
That's important what you said because I don't think sometimes we don't realize the battles that children face. And
Yeah.
when we are working and we're busy, you go to work and you come home and it's like homework, dinner, bed. You've missed a large portion of what the child has been through that day.
Yeah.
And so with having somebody at home, it does allow you to just kind of be more in tune with the child. Because sometimes, they don't even come home and say, but if you're in tune with your child, you can see something's a little off. What happened today at school or whatever the case may be. So that's important. That's really good that you were able to pick up on that
They
and allow
get
her
a
to-
lot less sick like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
with us, me and my wife being in ministry for years, we only time they ever did when they were younger, interacted with other kids. When we would go to church or whatever, they would go into the children's ministry. Sometimes they would catch stuff that the other kids had, whether they were playing with the toys or whatever. But if there was a period of time where we were in transition and they wasn't playing with other kids, they were sick a lot less. So that's a factor too. There are pros and cons, of course, because I have 4 boys and so they play with each other, but it is good as far as their social skills to go out and play with other kids, and they did that too. But that's another factor, as far as them catching stuff here and there. It's a hassle when you got kids, especially when they're not old enough to tell you what's wrong with them. It's a hassle, but yeah, it's a good route to take, financially if you could afford it. But that's actually one of the things that facilitated our moves from Denver last year to moving back to Texas. We said, what, it's easier, if you have kids and you living in a place like that with a high cost of living, to move down south where you can afford some stuff. Then you
Yeah.
got some options. So that's the direction that we took with it.
That's good. Once you have kids, it's all about the kids. That's just it. How do you decide? Now we have the kid. Okay, I'm staying home. Husband going to work. Now I have to decide if I'm going to breastfeed or if I'm going to use formula. What are the benefits, or are there benefits? Or I'm sure there's benefits one way or the other, but do we know any of them? I know you. I think both of my kids. We started breastfeeding. Breastfeeding hurts, guys.
God bless
It's a terrible thing. I think eventually it gets better, but that first couple of weeks is terrible. Trent, I know you know you just had a baby. Your wife, poor wife. Oh man.
Poor wife.
Can you hear me, babe? Okay.
She's my last 3 sons have been breastfed, and she feed them for a little over a year. I know when
That's
my oldest son
phenomenal.
is 10, so the one after him is 4. So when she first started breastfeeding him, she was in some pain, big time,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go into all the details, but eventually, after the first couple of months, after she stuck with it, you know,
Did you hear that?
it
Couple
was-
of months.
Jesus.
Y'all got a couple of months to get.
She really, you know, it also had a lot to do with her being at home a lot and stuff too. That first few months of taking off work initially and stuff, you know. But initially, it's really, really, really tough. But if you can get your foot in the door with it and you can stick with it, I think it has a lot of benefits, immunity-wise for the kids and financially going forward as well too, because the formula is very expensive. Because at one point, when we were looking at buying formula, I said, this is some nonsense.
It is.
That formula is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And I think that naturally, you know, it's better for the kids to be breastfed, you know. But like I said, it's a good route to go if that's, you know, something that you can do. But, yeah, it is very, very hard to maintain initially, though.
So, you know, I was on that tip on my first baby. On my first child, you know, I was like, oh, yeah, we breastfeeding. You know, I picked out pump. We went pump shopping and, you know, when I don't know, they have a name like the nurse that comes that helps you with the latching or
Lactation nurse.
whatever. Yeah, lactation nurse. You know, she was all nice and helpful. So we was good in the hospital. I was like, oh, man, we got this, Ma. It's nothing. It's nothing. I was like, you good? She's like, oh, I'm good. We straight. We straight. We get home. We were having all kind of difficulties, arguments. I'm like, man, woman up. Woman up. Man, one night, baby was crying. Wah, 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 wah. I go, you know, stumbling through, end up to the nursery, take the baby, get the bottle, boop, pop the bottle in the mouth, boop, lay on the couch, bottle done, fall asleep. Babies don't discriminate.
Oh, the baby thought you had the booby.
Man, baby
Yeah.
don't discriminate. Mommy don't discriminate. The next day I went to go get some Gentlease. We was done with breastfeeding.
And that's another thing too. Like if you
We was
don't
done with
pump, which okay, I remember when I first started breastfeeding, I pumped, and I think I might have got an ounce in like 2 hours. Okay, so that's something to take into consideration. But do it. You should do it, but it's tough. But what I was gonna say also, if you don't pump and freeze that milk, every time your baby gets up, mom has to get up with the baby. You know, if you're not breastfeeding, you can kind of balance it out. But if not, mom is up because she has the milk. You know, so that it's a lot. It's a lot.
I had a lot of respect for my wife after seeing her do that. I was like, man. I mean, because at nighttime when I'm at the house, when he starts crying, the only thing I have to do is get up and change a diaper, if that. Because when he starts crying, he's not looking for me. He's looking for her. There's nothing I can do for him at that point. I'm not warming up no bottles or anything. And so, like I said, by the time they start, when they get weaned, you know, people do it for different lengths of time. You know, my wife usually goes for a little bit over a year. When they get weaned, then they good to go after that. After they start walking, you grown. Go ahead, get your sippy cup. You good after that, but yeah, I have a lot of respect for women that breastfeed. Initially, it was weird for me. You know, my wife, she have a little cover. You know, we out in public or whatever, you know, she'll put a cover over and, you know, she'll be feeding them. You know, when I first had my son a few years ago, I was like, this is strange.
Yeah.
Strange. I felt kind of weird about it, but after a while, you get accustomed to it. But
yeah,
it's-
and then
it's
they get big enough to where they'll get that boob out of that shirt.
and that's how you know they too old.
Yeah,
That's how you know
they
they
will
too
be
old.
like, okay, mom, I'm ready to eat. Yeah,
That's how you know they too old. It's time to stop.
The next thing I want to talk about is postpartum depression, and the effects that it not only has on the woman but also the family. I don't think we shed enough light on postpartum depression. I was talking to my mom. I said, because it seemed like this is something new. It seemed like they didn't talk about postpartum depression back in the day, but I've been hearing about it a lot lately, and I know that it's real because I went through postpartum depression. And do you guys know anything about it, or like what type of effects? I know you guys don't have any kids yet.
We don't, but I've seen it firsthand with my niece and her mom. You know how she was distressed when Kamari first came, crying all the time, just an emotional mess. And I've read enough and, you know, even seen documentaries based on this one woman who had these children, and based on her religion, her husband wouldn't let her take any medication. He wouldn't listen to her when she said that she wasn't feeling it. She was sad. She was depressed. She was out of it, all out of sorts. And in the end, she killed all her kids.
Is that the lady from here?
I think she was from
Andrea
here.
Yates. Was it Andrea Yates? It's a lady named.
No. That's the one that drowned her babies in the bathtub.
Yeah, that's
this
different.
lady stabbed all of her children, like legit lost it, and stabbed 4 kids.
Oh wow.
Including a baby.
Wow.
Including a baby because her husband wouldn't listen to her.
Yeah.
He wouldn't listen to her because he didn't think it was real. He wanted her to, as Art said, woman up. She had to woman up, and it was never going to happen. She couldn't take it, and she kept getting pregnant. And so you know that it's a real situation. Even not experiencing it personally, you understand that these women need help. You know what I mean? They need the support. And I mean, it's serious. Any mental illness, depression is a mental illness, right?
Yeah. And there's a wide range of it. It can be kind of mild, and then it can be to that level where it's like just
that's it.
And it's tough, you know. And I understand it because think about just all of the things your body goes through from, you know, getting pregnant to actually having the baby childbirth. Your body is changing every day. I mean, it's crazy. So once your body, you know, you've had the child or whatever, now your body's trying to get back to normal. And I think that process is what causes it's a hormonal imbalance. You're just kind of all over the place. And you men, women, y'all need to please, you know, just really watch. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she was telling me that she's going through it, and she said she just didn't want to take a bath. She didn't want to do her hair. She just did not feel like doing anything besides lay in the bed. And it's hard. And think about when you have other kids in the household and you're like that and they need you and they're pulling on you and they're tugging on you as well, you know. So, you know, this is just kind of like awareness, like just look for the signs, you know, if it's just crying or not combing your hair, not combing her hair, even your sister, your mother, whatever, you know, just kind of look at that stuff because it's definitely hard. In my case, mine was a little mild. I was emotional. And I guess the way that I can explain the sadness is when you think about your favorite thing to do and it doesn't excite you. You know, that's when you know something is wrong. Because I would like think of, okay, maybe it's just because I'm in the house. And I was like, no, if I was on a vacation right now, I would still feel sad, you know. And it's just, it's a tough thing. But it's supposed to go away. I think they call it the baby blues, like in the first 2 to 3 weeks after you have a child. If it doesn't, then that's when you need to go see somebody. But fortunately, mine went away after that first 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very real thing. My wife has dealt with it, and
yeah.
The first time I didn't have a clue what was going on. I was just like, she is really tripping. You know, I mean, if we got into it about something small, you know, it'll turn into something that it shouldn't have been, you know. And I wasn't informed about it. I had never really heard anything about it. And, you know, I just kind of started hearing about it, and I said, this is some real stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And by the time that, you know, we had our second son, you know, I was hip to it. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be patient with her because I know she going through a lot of changes. Her body is doing some crazy stuff. And I was just patient, you know. I tried different techniques. I said, come on, babe, let's get out the house, go walk a little bit. Let's get a little sun, you know. You know, and sometimes, you know, people just need you to be there to listen. You know, you don't have to always talk, you know. Just be there and be patient. You know, sometimes it's the only thing you can do. So it's a very real thing, and it's a tough thing to deal with. And also understanding that, you know, it's just nothing that they can do about it sometimes. You know, your hormones are out of whack, and they be crying out of nowhere. I mean, the body undergoing a lot of changes. And so it was, even though it was something I didn't understand, you know, I sympathized with her because, you know, she couldn't do anything about it. So I was patient with her until she got over it. But in the last time my son was born, when my last son was born in January, the doctor actually prescribed her some pills for it. And it actually helped her a whole bunch, even though I was skeptical of it. I was like, you don't need those pills. Yeah. But I didn't tell her that. I was thinking that. But at the same time, I wasn't going to talk her out of getting the pills because she is the one that's dealing with that. And it helped her out tremendously. And so, you know, that's kind of what we did. But it's a very real thing, though.
It is a very real thing. And that's the thing. It's like, don't be afraid to take medicine for it. Don't be afraid to go see a therapist. Don't be afraid to actually talk to somebody about it, you know, to say something is wrong. I remember when we have like my family and we have like a conference call. And I remember when I told them, I was like, yeah, I think I have a little postpartum. Everybody got quiet. Like, I'm like, it's okay. People have postpartum depression.
We
It's
can talk
okay.
about
It's
it. It's
like
all right.
I'm not an alien. It's not, it's okay, but it's just something that's kind of taboo. It's like, oh, something's wrong
Yeah,
with you
people don't
because
like
you
to talk
have
about it.
postpartum depression. Yeah. But if you don't get help, eventually it's gonna be something that gets worse. It's not gonna get better. So, just get some help for that. Um, the next one is, how do you decide the number of children to have? In your opinion, how many children are too many?
Um, I don't think that you should specifically decide on a number to
Right.
have. I think you should just go with the flow. My parents, for example, they had my brother. A year later, they had me.
Hmm.
6 years later, they had my other brother. In 2009, here comes my other brother.
Wow. So how many kids is
So
that?
it's four of us.
Okay,
But
okay.
it's a lot of gaps.
Yeah.
And they were done. My mom got her tubes tied and everything.
Uh huh.
They were done. But now here we go. We have another blessing. That's Frankie.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think it's very important that you don't put a number on how many you decide to have, mostly because Easter, all of us are grown now. So
Mhm.
if it wasn't for Frankie, we would not have had a family gathering for Easter. We would have
Okay.
just been like a regular day.
Yeah.
But now because Frankie's here,
Yeah.
we all came united and
Yeah.
had a good time.
That's
so
cool.
I don't think you should put a number on.
Yeah,
how
God
many
don't
kids
make
to have.
mistakes, and
There you go.
be fruitful. That's
Absolutely.
hard though. You be like, be fruitful and multiply. My husband was like, don't you want to have another baby? I'm like,
But you know what? My dad
Don't
told
you
me.
want a puppy dog?
exactly.
My dad told me he gets excited to come home from work and come and see my little brother.
Yeah.
So it's like now, like maybe if he wasn't around, he'd probably have, oh well, it's just me
'Cause
and my
all of your
wife.
kids will
That's
be
it.
grown, yeah.
The house would be empty. But
Yeah.
he looks forward to coming to see my little brother.
That's sweet.
So.
Yeah. What y'all think about the kids? How many?
You know,
It's too many.
when you man, I don't know, man. I want to have as many kids as possible.
Are you serious,
Oh
Art?
yeah, man. I
Oh
mean,
my
like,
God, that's
that's the
beautiful.
only reason why I'm out here trying to grind, work 4 or 5 jobs right now. Is I'm trying to afford I'm trying to afford the kids I got, but then make room for more.
Oh,
But
cool.
coming from a family where, my grandmother was a foster parent and adopted kids, and my mother did the same. So when you say like, I think that when you comes to like when I say have many kids, they don't have to necessarily be from your loins. A child doesn't have to be from your loins to be your child. To be a mama or to be a daddy. That's not a bio. Well, I think it becomes a biological thing, but I think it's more along the lines of a spiritual thing. Like it's a spiritual connection that becomes like a biological thing, or vice versa. But I think as many as you can find yourself. I mean, as many as you can love. Man, I can't even say you can afford, because my grandparents couldn't afford all their kids, and they didn't lack anything. Let them tell it. My parents, my dad said, they couldn't afford us, but we didn't feel like we missed out on anything. So I feel like, as many kids as you could possibly have, whether that's, kids from your loins, whether that's you fostering, whether that's you adopting, whether that's you connecting with kids inside your community, as many kids as you possibly have, man. The world could use more love, so
Yeah.
just love on
That's
these
good.
kids.
Okay. Anything else, y'all good on that? Okay. Two parent households versus single parent households. Is there a effect? Is there a difference? I mean, I was raised in both. I was raised for the majority of my life. I was raised in a single parent household, and then my mom got married, and it was a two parent household. And I think I came out okay. I have issues, of course, but overall, I think I came out okay. I do understand the dynamic of a father and a mother. But what if you have a two parent household where the father's there, but
He
he's
ain't
not
there.
doing what he's supposed? You know what I mean? So I guess
Yeah.
it's just about what type of household it is. You know what I mean?
I think that because when you say, and that's what I'm saying, man, like the idea of like what what is a parent? What is a parent? What makes a parent? I've seen two sisters make a two-parent household.
Mm.
Phenomenal parents. You know, um, so uh, yeah, I think it's
Well, you
great.
were raised in a two-parent household, right?
I was raised by my mom and my dad. Yep.
Okay. So,
Um,
what do you think the benefits of that was?
uh,
Why is that funny? Seriously.
so because my like as a father now, as a spouse and as a father now, like my perspective has very much so changed on that. As a child, I was like, man, this man crazy.
I don't hear anything.
Now that I'm a adult, I'm like, he's the most sane man alive. He
Really?
wasn't crazy. All of you people were crazy.
What do you mean by that? Because I know, like now, of course, my husband and I, sometimes we don't agree with certain things, and every time I talk to another man or him or my dad, they're like, "You don't understand how to raise a man the way that a man knows how to raise a man." Eventually my son will be a man, and I'm like, okay, but then I always battle with myself, like, is he going too hard on him, or does he know what he do? So what do you think about that?
I think that we have to you have to trust God to trust the person that's co-parenting with you.
Mhm.
You have to trust God to trust them, um, and understand that and appreciate that they have a different perspective than
Mhm.
you have. Because if somebody has the exact same perspective, now you guys we can have the same goal, have the same principles, but appreciate the fact that they have a different perspective than you have. Because if we have the same perspective, we just look at 180. But if we have different perspectives, man, we see 360.
Okay,
You know,
that's good.
and just appreciate the fact that like you got they back, and they got your back. So now we see, they see what you don't see, you see what they don't see. I
Okay.
think you just have to appreciate that, and that's why I pause on in regards to like my upbringing because my parents loved each other, my parents loved their kids, but they didn't have that understanding, you know.
Mhm.
And now that I'm an adult, I see, you know, and I can appreciate both of their different perspectives, and I see how they missed each other. And I think even now, in their adulthood, they like. I mean, now that their kids are grown, and they see how they missed each other, and they try to pour into us so that we don't miss each other. We don't miss. Like we are able to co-parent really well with our spouses and be supportive of our spouses in regards to child rearing, even though we don't necessarily agree with everything, still support them. So
Mhm.
we're working and moving as a unit.
Okay. So what you saying, like two sisters having a household and raising
Oh yeah,
children? Do you
best of parents.
so you don't believe that there is a need for a man and a woman,
Um, I
or
feel like
anybody else who
Yeah,
wants to?
yeah. I mean, I was raised in a single parent household, and my mama raised six boys all by herself, and I think we turned out fine. But I would be lying if I said that I didn't miss my pops at times because even though she tried her best to play both roles, there were things that I needed to learn that she couldn't teach from a woman's perspective.
Mhm.
And so you can turn out fine growing up in a single parent household. You can actually do really really good. We've seen that numerous times. But there's a delicate balance. You need stuff from both sides. You can come out good, but there are things that a father can teach you that a mother can, and vice versa. And so, like I said, you can turn out fine, but I think you definitely need both. And so, like I said, in my household, me and my wife don't always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, I think my kids, will be balanced. They'll be better for it going forward. But like I said, as a single parent, you do what you can. Sometimes, you don't have a choice but to raise your kids on your own. And so,
Right.
you do what you can. But, ideally, with both parents in a household active and present, I think it gives you the best opportunity to be, a little more balanced as far as learning everything you need to know going forward in your life.
So are there long-term negative effects that come with being raised in a single parent household? Do you think? I mean,
Yeah, I think so.
I think as far as like, hmm, Cause I was raised in a single parent household, like I said, most of the time. Like you said, I did miss my dad a lot of the times. Um, and by my dad, he was in and out, so it was kind of like you could never really, I never really was like, oh, I know for a fact he's gonna be here. When he was there, it was like, oh, this is cool, you know. So I think I may have some issues there, but so I'm lacking in that way. But I'm not a serial killer. I'm not out here, you know. I'm not promiscuous or anything like that. So I don't know. That's hard for me because I don't know if the choices that we make as adults does it come from how we were raised, or is it a personality thing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
I
the
find that.
question.
Yeah.
I think that. So I don't think that you can. I don't think necessarily that you'll be that you're lacking. Um, even so, as a youth worker, I've been a youth worker for like nearly 15 years now, in some shape, form, or fashion. Whether that's working with nonprofit organizations, youth ministries, or as an educator or as a youth advocate, and seeing like a lot of single parent households, like men raising children, women raising children, so forth and so on. I find it interesting that like that lack, like there's like this weird thing that happens that it gets filled anyway, you know,
Mm-hmm.
prayerfully, like in a positive way. Um, I know several situations. Like I was sharing with my spouse, like I got overwhelmed one day at church, and she's like, "What? What's the deal with you crying? Not like something wrong?" I was like, "Nah, man. I just realized like how God has blessed me. I thought I lacked something. There was a time when when my father wasn't as present as I would like him to be, but there were other individuals that were there. My
Mm-hmm.
grandfather. I have cousins. I'm the youngest out of all the male cousins." And I have this phenomenal grandfather, this huge patriarch of a grandfather, so much so that I carry his name. I'm his direct grandson, but there's multiple Arthurs in our family, multiple people. Even now, this man's been dead for 20 years, and people are still talking about him like he was just here last year. I have cousins in town right now that are talking about, oh, Uncle Sonny this, Uncle Sonny that, talk about my grandfather. And the fact that I missed out on that, I felt like I was missing something. But there was an older man in my community that poured into me just the same. So I think that like as a single parent, um, if you're if you build a tribe around your child, because I feel like it takes a tribe and a village, whether you have a single parent household or a double parent household. Like I said, I had both of my parents, and there was multiple times where they had to lean on people outside of the two of them to help out with raising, productive, progressive, adults. Um, I think that's the case. I kind of lost my train of thought there. So
We were talking. Okay.
my bad, Britt.
No, it's fine.
Oh, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
I think you did. I think you did answer her question.
I think
You was
she-
on it.
Air five. Air
Hey.
five. Thank you.
The question was about the long-term effects.
Oh, long-term effects.
Okay, so basically, I got you. Y'all got him. He basically was
I got
saying,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like now I see these kids. I'm sorry. These same kids. Like I remember, it was a group of kids. I didn't even want them. I was like, oh, I came to my pastor to hopefully get money to take kids to camp. He's like, well, I got these group of kids. I was trying to get money to take high school kids to camp, and he gave me a group of kids at the church that were from 3rd grade to 5th grade. These same kids are now adults, and every single one of them came from single parent homes. And seeing them now, they're all great kids, but at the same time, they had a village around them. So, like, again, I think as long as you have that village, you're good. Because I've seen kids that come from 2-parent households, and I'm taking trips to downtown,
Yeah.
or I'm taking
I
trips.
see that. I seem like with the two parents, like,
yeah.
are y'all spoiled or what? What's going on?
Or we're taking trips to, the funeral home, our veterans, the cemetery, our Veterans Memorial. But these single parent households, like with these super strong moms and these super strong dads.
And I thought that's what you were gonna say about feeling that lack. To me, sometimes I feel like it's something about that lack that causes you to push forward and work harder and want
This is
to
true.
kind of feel. I don't know if it's like you have something that you're trying to feel and you feel and you're just like, I need to, prove something or what it is. But sometimes I find that the kids who are raised by single parent homes and who kind of didn't grow up as privileged as the next who may have been raised in a two parent household, they go harder. They have something to prove, to society. I don't know. That's just kind of something I've seen. Same sex parenting and how it works. We have the privilege of having a family here who's going to one day be a family of same sex parenting. So, can y'all give us some insight on, not nothing too deep, Ty? What's wrong? You okay?
I'm good.
On how this works, because I mean, we don't talk about it. We see it, but we're like, okay, okay. Y'all want to be parents one day, or what do
We
you
want to
think?
be parents. We want to be parents sooner than later. And with that being said, we have no idea how to be parents. We have no idea how to be parents. We don't agree on everything all the time. Going back to Sandra comes from a two-parent household. I grew up in a single-parent household. We have different views when it comes to a lot of stuff, but we're just going to say F it and go for it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. And I think that my sexual preference makes no difference on the fact of if I can be a great mother or not. You know what I mean? Or how well I can take care of my child, or what things in life I want for my child, or how I can feed them, I can feed them and help them grow. Them having two moms makes no difference, because if my child was going to be a gay child, they would be a gay child. If my child was going to be a serial killer, no matter what I do or try to be for them, if they have that mental illness, and they will have that mental illness, there's nothing I can do about that but try to be the best parent that I could be. So I don't feel like my sexual preference has no bearing on how they could grow or who they'll end up being. I can just try my best, but
Yeah, I got you. So, do you think more or less, like I was saying earlier, that the way that a person grows and the decisions that they make, I was listening to something on the way here, is more or less personality and like something that is already in them versus how they were raised?
I do. Cause my mom is amazing to me. You know what I mean? And never one time have I ever felt that I was lacking because I did not have my dad. And I haven't had my dad. He remarried when I was 11, but he was in the military, so I never saw him anyway. And when they did get divorced, I was maybe 10, and then he was remarried the next year. I never had that relationship that I can recall with him. And anytime I ever felt that I was lacking, it wasn't based off of her. Okay. It was based off of me and my personality. Okay. Something more I wanted to explore about myself. Something more that I wanted to help myself grow in or help my wife grow in. It had nothing to do with her. It's my personality and how I feel. Good. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when it comes to having a child, their personality is going to shape who they are regardless. Okay. We're just hands in there trying to help mold them into good people, but who they are is going to they're going to be who they are regardless. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, what do you think about that, babe?
Well, I think that, as same-sex parents, I really, really hope that they end up being straight. And I just feel like that they decide that because I feel like that way they won't have to go through any of the pain that somebody that is gay has to deal with.
Agreed.
And
agreed.
I think it'll be easier for them to go through that. And not only that, but I feel like they're also going to have to deal with in school, at churches, or anything like that, people approaching the children and asking them questions about
the bullying.
Yes, like about us. Wow. Like, hey, I heard your mom is a butch, a dyke, a lesbian. Yeah. So they're going to have to be a little bit more tough, and they're going to have to learn how to explain that, and I already see that they're going to come home with a lot of hurt. It's just something that
even now in this day and age,
absolutely 100%, really? 100%, you will be bullied because you have parents of the same sex, and you will be bullied by other children. You will have adults in your business asking you all kinds of questions that are not appropriate for children. And going back to what she said, as far as I do hope that I don't want to say normal, a straight child. Yeah. That my child is straight. Mm-hmm. And that's because I don't want them to have to experience things that we've had to experience growing up the way we are. I mean, I've been seeing women since I was 13 years old. I had my first real love, hardcore crush when I was 13 on a woman. On a woman. And then from there, it just blossomed, you know, and now I'm 32 years old. And so from that point on, I've seen my friends get kicked out, get the crap beat out of them, be bullied in school, especially the males. But the females, too. We go through it, too.
Yeah.
Hardcore. And I don't want my child
to
have to deal with that on top of everything else they have to deal with in life. So, you know, and then I don't want to always question if they are, like if I had a girl, if she's a lesbian because we're lesbians. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, my moms are gay, so I feel like I should be gay too. Like, no. You have to be who you are, not.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It's just it's a scary thing to think about. But I have no choice but to be supportive. My mom is a flag waving mom from day one. She's always held my hand. You know, gay pride, been supportive, took in all my friends when they got kicked out. So I don't have a choice but to be that mom because I had a strong figure to show me that no matter what, you love your child.
Your mom is straight, right?
My mom's straight.
Right, okay.
My mom is a straight woman. Yeah.
That's good. That's amazing. That's the kind of mom I would want to be.
I want to be that mom.
To be supportive. Of course, at first, it's like, it's kind of, I guess it's stunning.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Because, you know, you have these fairy tales in your head about what your child is going to be. And so,
not only that, but also, if we have a child and then they end up being a lesbian, are they going to say, oh, that's learned behavior?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like.
And see, this is the thing. This is why I wanted you guys to come and talk about it because, you know, there's so much stigma on homosexuality. We don't understand. Basically, if at the end of it, we don't, as straight individuals, we just don't understand.
And trust me.
So people want to just put all kind of things on it, like, oh, that's learned, or oh, this happened, or that happened, because they just don't know. Instead of asking, which you know, sometimes you can ask somebody, and maybe they're not comfortable talking about it, but I like to ask because I just need the information so that I can say, oh, okay, I get it now. I don't want to put anything out there just based off of my own interpretation because I don't know. I'm just.
Trust me, as a lesbian woman, there's still things that I don't understand. There's so many things. Queer, I don't know what that really means.
I don't know what half those letters are.
There's
that whole alphabet.
Cisgender,
LGBTQ, and now there's something else.
There's the cisgender.
There's non-binary. I have no idea what half of that
There's
stuff
so
means.
many terms now that even me as a lesbian woman, I
Some of
really
it is
never
a
heard
lot.
of them, don't understand them, and I mean.
But I don't care. Do you care?
No,
I don't care.
So
I think that it matters.
But it's
to that
the
individual.
person. The person matters. I don't care who you sleep. If I'm not having sex with you, I don't care about who you're having sex with. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing. But who you as a person matters to me, right? Are you nice? Are you conniving? Are you sweet? Are you giving?
Are you
your religious background really has nothing to do with me? Those are your personal choices. That's your life. It's not my life. It's do we vibe together or not?
Right.
You know, as friends, as lovers, as whatever. Do we vibe together or not? And then that, at the end of the day, that is all that should matter. Like the character of the person.
Also, can you teach me something?
Yeah.
Or can I teach you something? I think that's
good.
You know,
I think that's where we're the society that we're moving into is more of an individual society. For so long, we've been so clicked. Like, you know, right now you can walk down the street and you see how businessmen, they all dress the same, they all talk the same, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, you even with like the sororities and the fraternities, to me that's an identity crisis. It's like, I'm sorry y'all, I love y'all, and I know some of y'all do it for networking, but it's like I don't want to put myself in a box to fit into one particular organization or one particular group of people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the thing. It's to turn the box inside out. You know what I'm saying? I think that's an important thing in the society that we live now, and the generations that are to come, is to turn boxes inside out.
Right.
You know, whether we're talking about, same-sex marriages or parenting, whether we're talking about, like you said, certain organizations, we have to keep in mind that, like, we're human beings.
Yeah.
You know? And the important part is to be.
Exactly.
And to not stifle people from doing just that. Being. because being doesn't look like your being doesn't mean that someone's not being. You know,
Exactly.
like leaving
My
room
God.
and space for people to be. And even in like I know a situation where someone yeah, like I was like, man, that's not really you. Like that the actions that you're taking is not you.
Exactly.
I didn't start pointing finger and be like, that's not you. What you're doing is wrong. Like they're a human being. There's things that I did that wasn't me,
Mm-hmm.
or that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I was supposed to be doing. But there was room and space, grace and mercy for me to grow, and through my being develop. Oh, this is who I really am, and this is what I'm going to stand on. You know,
I
and
went
that
through something not too long ago. I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "You ratchet or you ghetto," and I was like,
Thank
"What?
you.
Why you say
Excuse
that?"
me.
So at first I was like, "Dang, okay, I gotta change the way I do stuff." And then the Holy Spirit said, "Brittany, you do have a little bit of ratchet if that's what they want to label it, whatever it is that they want to. If that person wants to label it that, okay, it's okay. Embrace that part of you,
Yeah, like
because
you
where
do
I'm
apologize
taking
about
you, those people who are going to connect to that part of you, they need to see that. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, well, if that's what you want to call it, I do got a little bit of ratchet, a little bit of gay. You know what I mean? But for it was just for a while, I was trying to suppress that part. But growing up in a single household, there were times I lived in the ghetto and I lived in the hood, and I'm sure that that part and that time had a little bit of marking on who I've become. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. But sometimes, society just doesn't allow you to be.
Man.
Just let me
Yes.
be who I want to be.
And while we're talking about this topic of like parenting, like, and it's crazy. I ain't gonna lie, man. I got teary eyed to hear you say that. Like,
Me too.
which like in my book, it's like, oh yeah, chick. I mean,
Yeah.
my check don't mean shit anyway.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I'm just being
yeah.
honest. My check don't mean shit in regards to you being parenting, but parenting is about being selfless. And for someone to be like, I've gone through experience that was like so crazy. I would never want my child to have this experience, even though it's something that's like tied to like who I am or my identity.
Yeah.
Like that goes to say something about how we are as a society. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like that's
yes.
crazy. At the same time, like I think about one of my kids, just to give y'all like I don't know, I guess like let you know if there's hope out there. Like I have the most mannish. I talked about him before in another podcast. He is the most mannish, boyish, like googly eyed. I'm in love with every little girl, um, from from 5th grade to 7th grade, and he comes from a same sex family. You know, um, and both of his parents love on him super super hard. Now both of them weren't there when he was first. When he was first when he was a baby, but he knows both. When we have parent teacher conferences, both of his moms roll up. Both of his moms check him. Both of his moms love him. Both of his moms hold him accountable. Both of his moms are his football um, practices, games, and everything. And like, if he didn't share that, you would have no idea. At the same time, you have folks like full, like y'all said, full blown out serial killers, and they were. It's like Leave It to Beaver, picket
Yeah.
fence,
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad, church, Bible study, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and they're full blown out serial killers. So
There's so much content we have, and we haven't even gotten halfway through the outline. But there's so much content we haven't even got halfway through the outline. I had to say that again. So we're gonna digress. That was good, but we
Yeah.
gotta digress. What do you guys think about the type of school that the child goes to? Private, Montessori, public, or just being homeschooled? My kids are in public school. I would love for them to go to be homeschooled, but of course, that's not feasible for us right now. But and the reason why I say homeschooled is because of like what Trent was saying earlier. Going to school. There's a lot of factors that plays in that day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they come home. Hey, how was school? Good. I know there's something else you can tell me about school. So, if they're homeschooled, I don't want to shelter my kids, but at the same time, at least at that part of the, like with school, I'll have some type of control, and then we can do play dates or whatever else. But that's the way that I feel about it. But they are in public schools, and it's okay, you know. What do you guys think about schooling?
I think that home is the first is ground zero for education. Period. That's primary school anyway.
Which one?
Uh, Home, like
Okay.
your home setting. Parents are the primary educators. As an educator, we are only secondary educators. Um, you know, parents, you guys set the tone for education. And when education is a priority to you, education becomes a priority to your child. And,
Yeah.
we really are as teachers, just there as we're support role. You guys are the end all be all. I think that, but I understand what you're saying. One of the things that I learned from the great Carol Jean McCrae, my mama, is she taught us like, I guess, how to answer her questions, and how to share about what was going on any experience, whether that was an excursion with an aunt or with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or school. And we would talk about it beforehand, have that experience, and then there'd be a debrief afterwards.
I
So
learned
where
that on Pinterest. I looked at it. I was like, how do I get my child to talk to me? And they give you different questions that you can ask
Yeah.
so that you can get more out of the child besides just because they're young. They don't really know. They know how to communicate, but not on that level. And so it's like certain things that you can ask in order to just really get kind of an in-depth response.
And Carol was such a G at it. I mean, like, this woman's really. I'm not saying because she's my mama. She's like really phenomenal. She's
I could
like
tell.
really
I
good
met
at it.
her. Her spirit
She's
was
like
good.
really good at it, man. She was so good. She gets you to tell on yourself, and you even have to. You didn't even get a phone call home, and you telling on yourself. She would just get like information out of you like that, and it's not like I'm holding back. It's just the moment we would hop inside her car, we would just start spilling everything that would happen about the day, and and she was able to like, oh, okay, I see you need help here.
Can we get her on the podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, she's retired. She's not doing anything.
Yeah, that would be good.
You know what
Bring
I'm
your
saying?
mama.
Really cool. We need some information on how to
Yeah.
keep, because these parenting is tough, you
Yeah.
know?
So when you say like, and in regards to the question about private, public, Montessori, home, I think you have to really just like, that's something again like, I think like it's a question of how, like, what's good for your child. My sisters and I, we went to a variety of different schools. My sister Lauren and I, we went to private school. Private school worked at some point worked well for me. At one point, it didn't work well for her. She went back to public school. She was almost a year behind. When she went back to private school, it was amazing for her. She went to one of the top schools, top tier 1 universities, and she said the only reason why she was successful is because of her private school education. I
Maybe
feel
it's
like,
a balance.
yeah, I feel like when it comes to private school, really what you're getting is the same education you can get in a private school, you can get in a public school. Being someone that's taught in the public sector and gone to private school, I think that what you get with private school is environment. I think you're paying for environment.
Okay.
Mhm.
I can agree to that. Do you guys think that there's a certain amount of aggression in African American children versus other cultures?
No,
No,
straight up hands
absolutely
down.
not.
I think it's
No.
perceived.
Mm-hmm.
It's perceived. We've had this conversation offline.
Right.
It is very, very. It's a perceived aggression. It's not a real aggression. African American children act out just like every other children, just like any other child acts out. I think it's a perceived aggression. I think that the African American child that's not perceived as a child can, for instance, coworker shared with me today about a situation about her son. She's an educator. We've worked
We
together
got
for
10
4 years.
minutes, or-
Oh, okay. Shut up on the story. Long story short, like I said, I think it's like how African Americans, in particular African American males, are viewed in America. Point
Period.
blank, period.
Got you. What about ADHD? Is that a real thing?
Nothing the ass whooping couldn't cure in some sports.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is, but I feel like those are just I mean,
See, that's how my husband
I
feels.
feel like
He's
when
like,
we
it's
were kids, we
discipline
were, yeah.
in sports so that they can get that energy.
Burn that energy out of them. You know what I mean? Keep them focused on something. If they need to bounce around, you got to help them focus. You have to find a way to work with your child. I think that medication is a last resort.
Yeah.
Like, if you've tried everything, and at the end of it, your kid still, you can't figure out what's going on, maybe even talking to someone. I had a friend tell me recently she put her son in counseling, and it's working.
Okay.
They threatened to put her kid on medication. She put him in martial arts. She, got him a tutor. She did all this stuff, and then she took him to a counselor. He no longer requires that. Even his teachers are saying, you know what, this kid did a whole 360. We don't know what you're doing, but keep it up. So I think that once you've exhausted all your options, then maybe there is something going on. But kids just need... I mean, look how they are now. They're just stuck in front of a computer most of the time or on their phones. They have their focus on this thing, and they just got a lot of energy they need to burn off. You
overstimulates them.
Overstimulates
them. And then it requires, it's like we foster short-term, we foster these things of short-term attention, and then we complain about their attention span. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that's something we have to take into consideration. Like, learning, like when we were kids, learning how to play marbles required your attention. Learning how to play hopscotch required your attention.
How old are you? Marbles.
Hold on
But
now.
anyway,
rude like that.
Don't feel bad. I played with
I
marbles.
got older cousins. I got old parents. My parents was old. They was old.
He an old soul.
He is. I love
Yeah,
him. Okay.
old.
So these next ones we just gonna run through real quick, okay, guys? So if y'all just give me a quick synopsis. Go back to allow kids to have a voice or mold them into what you want them to be.
Voice.
Both.
Voice.
Definitely a voice.
Voice.
Mold them into the people you hope that they will be. You want to make them a good person, but they should have a voice. You should let your kids express themselves. I feel like it's important for them to be able to get out what they need to get out. If you're suppressing who they are, then one day, it's like that kid that it's like that kid that grows up in the church and they're isolated and they have to be this way all the time and represent their parents in that kind of way, and they go to college and they turn into the hoe. And you're like,
True.
oh.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
Okay. When do we talk to our children about homosexuality?
Same time we talk to
Immediately.
them about sexuality, period.
When is that?
I don't know.
Or
It's
sex.
too soon.
When do you talk to the
My
kids
baby
about
was
sex?
2 and she was like, Daddy. And kids ain't subtle. They be like,
well,
Why they holding hands like that?
Yeah,
Why
that's
he holding
true.
his hand?
yeah.
I was just like,
See, Deborah haven't asked me that, but I have talked to both my kids, 7 and 2, about other people touching their private areas.
That's very
Yeah.
good.
I want
That's
them to
very
know
good.
what their private area is. So
Yeah.
I read this online. Like I do a lot of reading online. You tell your child what their private area is, so that they can explain to you exactly if something happened, what happened. So she knows she has a pee and she has a butt. So that if somebody touch your pee, she can say. So nobody can say no. She don't know. No, I told her pee. If she say that somebody did it.
Absolutely.
And she's 2, so I did
Yeah.
that. I tried to do that early. Go ahead.
so just to digress, because we were talking about homosexuality, which is like so love. There's love is love, and then there's like sexuality. So when my daughter had that which was like, I remember we were at Randall's when that was blasted out there, we had the conversation about you can be friends with and love whoever you want to love.
Okay.
In regards to like actual sexuality, that's not a conversation we've had to have. We're going to have the conversation about homosexuality when we have the conversation about sexuality.
Yeah.
But in regards to like people being together and love being love, people are together and love is love. That's what we have. Like, they're holding hands because they care about each other. Just like me and Mommy care about each other. Or just like me and Uncle Devon care about each other. You see me and Uncle Devon hug, there's nothing wrong with that. So like, and also
So what about when
happens
they kiss, Daddy?
Huh? Well, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
you and
I
Uncle
could
Devon.
Yeah, me and Uncle Devon don't kiss, but we
Yeah.
do hug and we do hold hands. Like I love my friends.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? And
What do
I
you
have
say?
no
I
problem.
just need to
Him
know
and Uncle
what
Devon
I'm gonna
holding
say.
hands, okay?
As a teacher, I love because like I mean, no shade to any of the other teachers that teach with me, but y'all know I'm the favorite. And
okay.
my
the
kids
kids.
love me. My kids love me, and I
Yeah.
try to normalize, like because like this whole thing of like, oh, that's gay. And I was like, no, gay is gay, and it's okay to be gay. Mr. McCrae's gay. No, I'm not gay, but like they'll be like, oh, then all of a sudden, it throws them off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we have to like make it again, like I said, make it okay for people to be. You know what I'm saying? If it's
Agreed.
okay for me to
Agreed.
stick my tongue, because I feel like I'm gonna be honest, I feel just as like weirded out, or if I have my straight couple friends being like all touchy feely, I feel just as awkward when my gay couple friends are all touchy feely.
Yeah,
you know
like,
what I'm
should
saying?
I
Just touchy feely.
Should I leave?
Just touchy feely.
You've gone too far.
Like
Yeah.
low key, I'll be like, ooh, y'all touchy feely. Okay. My mama right over here. It's for me. It's not. It doesn't matter whichever one. It's just
Yeah.
Like I feel like we have to like make it okay for people to be. You know
Real
what I'm
quick, I agree with that 100%.
I think
Jordan and
I think my brother's girlfriend said it best with when she's talking to her kids. She told them some boys like boys, some boys like girls, some girls like boys, some girls like girls, and that's okay.
Okay.
As simple
It's
as
simple.
that.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Britt.
Super
That's
simple.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And I also
yeah, that's good to say because I think we just think, oh, if I tell them that it's okay, they're gonna be gay, and that's not it.
that's not true.
Yeah.
That's not it.
They're going to
Once
be who they are.
Once we realize that, we'll be okay. Once we realize it's just because you say, well, they're gay and that's okay. That's not. That doesn't mean your child's
that
gonna be gay.
applies
Yeah.
to you, right?
Yeah,
That it's going to have
exactly.
to apply
And
to
Okay.
you.
again, we're making a safe space. We're not
Yeah.
putting folks in boxes.
Yes.
Because like we're talking about the parent thing. You have people who have lived and reared children, and they're gay.
They're gay.
You know what I'm saying? They may have gotten married and not even known they were gay, and realized through their marriage, oh, I'm gay, and they're all this hurt, pain, and sometimes they're displacing it off on their kids because it's not a safe place, a safe space.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think what we have to do, like as
Just
we have
create
emerging
that safe
generations,
place.
and as we create a society, is make a safe place, a safe space for people to again just be.
That's
Exposure is so
good.
important. My nephew is 12 years old, and I have a niece, Taylor, who my nephew grew up with me from baby on. Like, he was with me 24/7. My niece, Taylor, was with her mom, and I didn't get to know her until I went back home. It was about a year ago. And me and Sandra took Taylor and Jordan out, and Taylor's 10, Jordan's 12. And we went to the Black History Museum. We're having a good time, whatever. And me and Sandra are holding hands, and Taylor questioned why me and Sandra were holding hands. And I said, well, that's my wife, and I love her, so I hold her hand. Ew, auntie, that's gross. Jordan lost his shit. He was like, there is nothing wrong with her. Why would you say that to her? She is who she is. I'm sorry, baby. Was I screaming in your ear?
No. I just have big ears. I have big ears. I have abnormally big
Wait.
elf ears.
Jordan couldn't take the fact that Taylor was not well versed in it. And not that he completely understands it. He's 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't remember a time where he was really asking all those hard-hitting questions,
he
but he's been
loves you.
exposed to it. And
Yeah.
he loves me. And so he could not take it. Like, I
Yeah.
thought he was going to jump on her in any minute. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think that exposure is very, very much important. I think that it shapes
See,
Jordan
that's
into a great
different.
individual.
That's different. I'm glad we're talking about this because, sometimes you hear, don't show your kids that. They don't need to see, sex or homosexuality, all of that kind of stuff. But I've always thought that because then if you don't tell, I want to let them know so that they don't go out and try to figure it out on their own, meaning like, get it from Joe Blow, and Joe Blow tell him we got to kill all the people who, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's my
Right.
thing. So
Or
it's like,
some
let's
molester teaching them
Yeah.
all the wrong things to do and saying this
Mhm.
is right, this is how it should, because we
Exactly.
didn't talk about it.
exactly.
Or you have someone like
exactly.
this questioning, oh, because I crossed my legs, or oh, because my hand. I've been because of my hand gestures, like even myself. Like I was told because like my hands go in like this, or I've know another little boy. He's told, hey, don't cross your legs. That's gay, and it's like no, that's just him crossing his legs.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't make him gay. So like these things that we think that we put all these things off on kids,
Right.
and then they get to this weird malleable age. Y'all know that age where you don't know anything of yourself, and someone's telling you. And I saw this when I was mentoring kids at Pershing. There were a group of boys. They were being told that they were a certain way, so they just accepted it. Like, oh, that's what I
Yeah.
am. And then they start practicing and acting out certain things, and they're like, "Yeah, I really don't like
Labels.
that." But I'm doing it because like I've been told this is what I'm in because I'm being put inside a box.
Yeah.
You know.
Get rid of the labels, and that's a part of my whole thing. Y'all gonna see it. I'm doing a website. You can go through it, and I'm gonna help you shed all of the labels that you have that has been put on you throughout your life. Parents do it. Teachers do it. They label you, and it's not who you are. And then you act based off that label, and it's just you have to shed those things in order to become that individual that you are. But real quick, we're gonna kind of close out the last one. How do we handle our children not becoming what we expected or wanted? Although we talked about, it's their personality or whatever. If your child, do something crazy or something that may not be, what you've taught them to be, it stings. How do we handle that?
Ooh,
How do we handle that?
my baby's a liar.
Aww.
She 5 years old. She be lying. I love lying ass.
Why you throw her under the bus like that? My
Girl,
baby's
she
a
be
liar.
lying.
Dorian lies
She tell a
too.
bad lie.
Dorian lies too, and it
Adam, you
burns
eat the
me
cookie?
up. No.
So you
You still
telling
got
me
a
you
whole
didn't go
cookie in
through a
your
lie?
hand.
It's a phase, probably.
Yeah,
Hopefully
I think
it
you might be
is.
a lion
No,
fan.
no,
I don't remember.
I'm sorry.
I
Now,
don't
granted,
remember.
I'm downplaying like with the whole thing, but like again, I think about like I forget what I think it was. I don't know what serial killer it was. I was watching a documentary on it, and I was thinking like these poor parents. Oh my God, they did everything they thought they.
I
they
know.
could
That's
do
what I'm
right.
saying. What do
And
we
their kids
tell
are
the parent
full-blown
of the
out
serial killer?
You know
What
what
do
I'm
we
saying?
tell them? What do we do?
I think that all you could do, man, is like do the very best you can do, and the rest is like, it's just, hey, man, like they always said, you could lead them to water. You can't make them drink.
Yeah.
There's a point to where
Right.
like even now, like I'm seeing like having a 9-year-old, and I thought like, oh, at 9 I can still guide and really make decisions for you. No, there's decisions that she has to make for herself. It's on her. As a teacher of middle schoolers, it's almost entirely on them. You could
Wow.
beat these kids till they're black and blue. Ultimately, they're going to decide to do it or not to do it.
That's
you
the
know?
Right.
tough part,
Absolutely,
man. It is. It's tough.
It's hard, man. Ooh, hardest
Like
thing
you
ever
say,
in life.
when my child lies, it's like, what's up, baby? What is the problem? Like, why are you? But it's just that they don't want to get in trouble or whatever the case may be. But I'm like, we could just talk about it. We don't have to lie. Hopefully it's a phase, Ty.
I hope it's a phase.
I
I
hope
do
it's a
too.
phase.
Like,
I do
listen, you
too.
gonna catch these hands because you got in trouble, or you gonna catch these hands because you lied? Which one you gonna
Exactly.
pick? Like,
And that's the
it's
thing.
probably a
It's
phase.
like just whatever it is, whatever comes up, discipline them for it and move on. I mean, that's all you
Yeah.
can do.
And again,
That's
I think it comes back to like, and it's so hard. I think like where people are trying to like force their kids to do it, like you have to allow them to be. It's the hardest thing ever. Like the creator does
is.
it with us. How hard is
That's
to be like,
good.
dude, I have a plan A for you, and you choosing plan F. Not even B or C. You choosing plan F.
You choosing
way
F.
I
You
have
way
to
off.
I have to let you be,
Mhm.
and eventually it'll come to and be like, oh, okay, I get it. Because I see that
Man.
like it humbles me so much. Like being a parent in regards to my relationship with the creator, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, God.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm-
I'm not even gonna whoop you because I really don't want him to whoop me. You get to make it.
I remember my pastor at Higher D, he was saying his son took him through the ringer. He went to jail. He's a pastor. He went to jail a couple of times. He said he told him, just don't get a tattoo. He said he came back with a sleeve. He said, I don't know what to do. Everything I tell this boy to do, he do the opposite.
Yep.
But that boy is a pastor of the church now. He's the junior pastor of the church.
He had
And
his own
so
path.
I was like, and he said that now those people who connect to him look like him. They have sleeves.
Wow.
They've
That's
been to
what I'm saying,
jail.
man.
Mhm.
That's pretty
You know
cool.
what I'm saying?
And that
so
right there was his calling.
yeah,
Right.
and he had to go through that whole
Yeah.
journey. That was a good way of closing out,
whose
wasn't it?
journey
I
was
thought
it,
that was
though?
dope.
You know what I'm saying? That's the dope thing about it. Like when you're just being,
Mm-hmm.
like who's like the daddy got a journey out of it. He got to
Yeah.
grow and learn from it, man.
True.
That's like so live.
True, that's good. Okay, guys, we're gonna close out. Some of the things that we talked about when making the decision to keep or not keep a child, as far as abortion or adoption, it's up to you. Make the best decision for you. Okay. Be supportive of spouse during postpartum depression because it's a real thing. If you have postpartum depression or if you are suffering from it yourself, get help. Don't just think it's gonna go away. If it's been 3 weeks after you had the child, it's time for you to talk to somebody and get some kind of help. Have as many kids as God says to have. You know, be fruitful. If it happens, some people can't have kids at all. So if it happens for you, then just try to embrace it. I know it's hard because I'm right there with you. It takes a village to raise children. When picking a school, do what's best for the child. Some kids do well in private. Some kids do well in public. Some kids need to be homeschooled. Some kids need that Montessori school where they can kind of just go as they need to go. Um, and then what we've learned the most is not only to allow kids to be, but we all just need to be. Just be. Just be. Okay. So that's it for It's a Vibe podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Comment below. Make sure you subscribe. And if you have anything that you want to put into after you've listened to the podcast, you want to comment, go ahead. We'll look at it and we will discuss it. Okay. Thanks again. Bye bye.
Whoop, whoop. Good stuff.